to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel, and welcome to my bare nails because I can't get them done, so bear with me, don't judge me. I gave you a full beat, so let's just move on. So in this video, I want to talk about the season 3 premiere of Insecure. I think last night's episode touched on something really important that no one really prepares you for as you grow into older adulthood, and that's the way your friendships start to kind of reform a bit, and you start having to evaluate whether or not people who have been in your life forever still need to be there at that point in your journey. So brief recap, because y'all already watched the episode, we don't need to go scene by scene, but we're basically dropped back into Issa's life. She has her own place. She's still the property manager for this apartment complex. Her apartment looks super cute. It looks like she's getting her life together a little bit. She's still working on her block party idea with Condola, and they've developed this really good rapport, but you can tell Issa still very much feels like she's not up to par with everyone else around her. So she just has like all this anxiety about, you know, talking to her, and then the whole thing with the shirt, and just like her grandma died of scurvy. And it's just, at this point, her social awkwardness it gives me secondhand embarrassment, and I just find myself kind of wanting to yell at the screen like, girl, please shut up, stop talking. So fast forward, we get to the real meat and potatoes of the episode, where thanks to Tiffany, who's a horrible person and a horrible friend, I really don't like her as a character, we find out that she kind of sort of knew that Condola and Lawrence were dating, and they just come out and say, you know, the new guy who you've been dating, who you've been telling me about, is actually my ex. And it's obviously really awkward for them to have this revelation, because they've developed this really good rapport with each other, and Condola's really an integral part of helping Issa get these sponsorships that she needs for this block party that she's so passionate about. And shit gets real, shit gets awkward, and it's fine, but it's also not fine. And we find out that Molly is still dating, let me check my notes, I forgot his name, Andrew. And she also mentions that she's really stressed out from work, because we remember last season when we left off, she had kind of screwed herself a little bit socially with the other black women in the office. So I'm hoping we'll get to delve into some more of like where that left her. The real crux of this episode, besides the very awkward sex scene with the TSA agent who Issa is dating, I know a lot of people were kind of body shaming the guy, but it was not so much his body, so much as it was the self-serving sexual technique that he was using, and it looked just like painfully uncomfortable. And I think that was so cringe, because I know a lot of women are not very comfortable saying, I don't like that, please don't do that, or like, could you not, you know? So I think that was kind of triggering for some people, which just goes to show you, girl, use your voice, use your words. If you don't like it, you ain't got to do it. So I did appreciate how vocal Issa was about like that she was not enjoying certain parts of the sexual experience, and I think that a lot of us could really learn from that. Fast forward to the notes, I forgot what it was called, to the mixer that Issa was hosting at her apartment complex. I guess she's trying to be cost effective, where she's looking for sponsors for this big block party style festival that she's so passionate about, and that has seemed to like give her this direction in her life. And she's, you know, obviously antsy about whether or not what she's doing is up to par, because she has Kelly as the bartender, she has her brother as the DJ. And just as an aside, I really would like for Kelly to get her own like spin-off show, or at least her own storyline, because she seems far more interesting than really anyone else, and I would love to see her get her own moment to shine. The woman who plays her, Natasha, I don't want to misquote her last name, it just fell out of my head, but she's actually freaking hilarious, and I would really like to see her do some things of her own, or at least like for the character Kelly to get to shine a little bit more. en route to the mixer, Kelly is in the car with Andrew, and Andrew reveals to Molly, reveals to Molly that he's dating other people. And instead of Molly just being honest in the moment, she pretends that she is too, and then ends up behaving really passive aggressively towards him. And I think Molly's biggest problem is her ego. Her ego is too big for her to be honest with herself and the people in her life in ways that would actually benefit her more. And I'm really frustrated with seeing her do that. What I really want to get into is what we're witnessing, the downfall of Issa and Molly's friendship. The episode starts off with what we can assume is supposed to be present day, with Issa on the phone with someone saying that she doesn't fuck with Molly anymore, and then we flash back to 4 months before the block party. So I'm guessing that this episode is really going to be exploring the evolution, and I guess how also female friendships tend to devolve as well, which I think is something that no one ever prepares you for that. No one ever tells you that sometimes you have to break up with your friends, and a breakup with a friend, I feel like is just as, if not more, emotionally taxing as a breakup with a romantic partner, because they hold a different space in your life. What I think Molly feels that she can be critical of Issa out of a need to hold her accountable, and just like wants the best for her, wants her to be better, wants her to do well, which is fine. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, at a certain point, are you being hypercritical just because you don't like this person? If every single thing that they do, you feel like you need to interject with what you feel like is better, maybe y'all just aren't in alignment anymore. And I think it's okay to have friendships where someone may be excelling career-wise, and then the other person may not be doing so well career-wise, or where one person is experiencing a really full, fulfilling romantic life, and the other person isn't. You don't have to be like completely parallel or, like on par in the same ways. But I think the basis of a friendship is a mutual love and respect, and a mutual belief in certain core values. And I just don't think that Molly and Issa really have that anymore. I think that Molly gets really fed up with what she calls Issa's messy life. And it's like, where the fuck do you get off telling her that her life is messy when you were dating a whole married man who was in a semi-open relationship? Your life is just as messy, and Issa didn't ask for this situation with Condola and her ex Lawrence. It just kind of happened, and I think that she's handling it the best way possible, given that Condola is an integral part of the development of this block party. Like, she really does kind of need her. And I thought it was refreshing to see at the end of the episode, or the end of the mixer, how Issa kind of came into her own and was like, okay, this is what this is about. This is why you all are here. This is what I need. And it's just so refreshing to finally see her in some regard come into her own, because we have watched a lot of very awkward encounters with Issa. And by the end of this series, I'm really hoping that we will see her develop into a person who is more secure. Like, drop the end. I want to see her develop into someone who is more secure in who they are and in what they're doing. I really think that we tend to kind of ignore the way our friends impact our lives. And once you get to a certain place where a person is always kind of putting you down, always kind of taking digs at you, or taking cheap shots, or they're all with these little random barbs, you have to evaluate whether or not that person is actually a friend. And I just think that Molly and Issa have maybe outgrown each other. I think that Molly really needs to actually be truthful with her therapist about some things, because I don't know that therapy is really working for her. I don't know that Molly is really like doing the work to heal and to become her best self. Meanwhile, she's constantly giving Issa all these critiques about her life that she doesn't seem to be implementing herself. And something that I came to realize when I expanded my circle of friends, especially after moving to New York, and I met so many different people who were so in alignment with me on so many things, especially when it comes to feminism, style, aesthetics, and things like that. even when you meet a person who's on the same spiritual or emotional wellness journey that you're on, it's a whole different level of social intimacy. And you start to kind of learn, like, oh, this is how it's supposed to feel. Your friends should be able to call you to task if you're not being your best self, or if you need help in a certain area. But once it becomes a repetitive, you're not good enough in this area, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, and especially when that friend isn't taking their own advice in their own life, you really need to evaluate some things, because sometimes the call is coming from inside the house. Sometimes the person who is making you feel the worst about yourself is actually the person who is the closest to you, or who you thought was the closest to you. And you don't always have to break up with a friend, but you can absolutely reprioritize them in your life. Maybe you don't call them as often, maybe you don't answer the phone for them as often, but if a person is making you feel bad about yourself more than they're helping you to feel better, or more than they're adding to your growth and your development in positive ways, you need to do some reevaluation. And this was a really, really, really hard thing for me to do personally, because most of the friends that I've had for a really, really long time. But as I have grown and have started on my own journey of healing and of learning how to be the most like myself, I've had to reprioritize some people. I've also had to understand that some people don't have the capacity to show up in every single way. Like, no one friend is going to be the end all be all for you. And that's fine. They absolutely don't have to be. But you don't have to try to make them into that either. I have some friends who are just much more analytical. They're much more action oriented. So I really can't call them if I'm an emotional wreck, if I'm having a depressive episode, because they don't know what to do for me. If I can't pay a bill one month or something, there are some friends who I can call to say, like, I feel like I really let myself down. I'm really disappointed that I did this. And they can talk me through not beating up on myself, right? They know how to hold space for me so that I can get back to myself and not punish myself for just making a human mistake. And I have other friends who are just like, girl, do you want me just to send you the money? Because they don't want to hear all that. They don't have the emotional or empathetic capacity to show up for me in the way that some other friends do. So I think it's important to know when you're evaluating your friendships as an adult, and especially as you continue to grow in your life, like I hope we all do, everybody's just not going to fit the bill. Everybody can't come with you. Everybody can't come with you in the same capacity. And sometimes you just have to restructure the space that people take up in your life, because everybody's not growing with you. There are just some things that people who I grew up with, who have been in my life forever, are completely okay with that I would never be okay with. Especially when it comes to dynamics between men and women. There are some people who I'm just like, we were raised the same. I don't know how you arrived here and I arrived here. I just don't have those conversations with those people, because it ends up being disappointing and also scary. That's what you think? That's how you think the world works? Okay, girl. So I think I'm excited to see how this is going to play out between Issa and Molly, because I think it's something that really needs to be explored when we look at female relationships, female friendships. And I hate, it's so stupid the way that if women kind of fall out or outgrow each other, we get looked at as being immature, being catty, being haters. Men don't really have that. Men are allowed to kind of treat people like they're disposable in ways that we aren't. So I'm excited to see how this season goes. I'm excited to see what I hope is Issa's growth and development. So I'm going to do a review each week on each episode. And yeah, I'm excited to take this journey with you guys. So stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe, share, review, tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's talk about it in the comments, and make sure you're signed up for my weekly wellness newsletter as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. Talk soon. Bye.